again, and she's coming to us with 25 plus years of experience in HR, in the HR business. She knows what she's talking about, so we're really happy to have her join us again. On the head of operations side, we have Andrew, and head of customer support, Ian. From the marketing team, we have myself, Rob, and Asha. So without further ado, I'll leave you to it, Belinda. Thank you very much.
So thank you everybody for joining today. So what we're talking about today is employee engagement and attracting staff, which is extremely topical at the moment. It's not just an issue for the aged and disability sector. It's an issue in most industries particularly that I deal with in terms of attracting and engaging people in the current climate that we're in. It's definitely what we'd call an employees market at the moment. So there's definitely things that you can do within your businesses to promote more engagement with your employees and work to attract staff to join your company. So we're going to go through some of those some information around that today, and hopefully it will provide you with some things you might already be doing, or potentially some tips that you can use within your business. So to start with, I thought I'd go through some statistics with regards to the aged and disability sector with regards to staff turnover. So essentially, it's one of those things, if you're not doing it already, it's probably a good thing to monitor and measure within your business is what is the staff turnover within your business. And what that means is how many people are leaving your business in a given period. So whether you track that monthly, quarterly, or annually, I definitely think it's something that you should be doing as a way of monitoring. Like if you've got a lot of people leaving your business, you need to figure out why and what's the issue, what's the root cause for that staff turnover. But it's also good to bench that back to what is the industry standards within this sector. So you might think it's really high, but then when you actually look at the industry and the statistics within the industry, you might be okay. You might be within this standard. So for example, staff turnover rates for casual employees is sitting at 26%, which is actually quite a high figure. But then when you look at your permanent employees, it sits at around 12%. So it's a lot lower for your permanent employees. And this information is from the 2022 National Disability Service Workforce Census Report. So that's where we've got those statistics from. So tip there is, if you're not already doing it, I think it's probably a good idea to start measuring your staff turnover rates. What I want to talk about now is staff engagement. What is it? How do you improve staff engagement in your business? How do you measure those things within your business? So basically, what is staff engagement? It's about the emotional commitment that employees have to the organisations and its goals. Are they emotionally connected to your organisation? This emotional commitment means that engaged employees actually care about their work and the company they work for. And people who are highly engaged at work, they not only provide greater value to the organisation, but they also experience better quality of life at work for themselves. So, and high employee engagement generally leads to increased productivity, higher employee retention, increased customer and client satisfaction, lower absenteeism within the organisation, and generally better health overall for your employees, and typically also a decreased rate of workplace injuries. So if you've got an engaged workforce, it's definitely a beneficial thing to have within a business. And you can see when you have disengagement, all of those things tend to tick upwards. So if you've got disengaged staff, you generally find you've got higher increased absenteeism, you've got lowest customer satisfaction, and there's generally more increases, more workers' compensation claims or injuries within the workplace. So measuring employee engagement. If you're not already measuring employee engagement, it's definitely something you should consider. And there's lots of different options available to do this. You could be to minimize the cost, you could do it internally. If you've got teams, you can create a form on Team and do an employee engagement survey via your Teams app. Or you can spend a bit more money and you can go access different employee engagement surveys from a variety of different sources. There's plenty of different options available for businesses to select with regards to employee engagement surveys. And I think it's important to maybe look at how you're doing them, designing them so that you're getting the information that you need to be able to make decisions within your business going forward. Employee engagement is affected by the actions of leadership, managers, and people's teams. So whether or not employees feel like their voices are being heard is something that is important when it comes to engagement. So when you're using an employee engagement survey, it's an effective way of capturing what your employees are actually thinking and how they're feeling within your organization. So I've just put a couple of questions, like four or five questions to start with. I mean, there's so many different types of questions you can ask, but some of the questions you can ask to measure engagement is, am I proud to work for the company? And would I recommend working at this company as a great place to work? I think that's a really telling question you can ask your staff, because if they're not prepared to recommend your workplace, then you need to have a think about what's going on in your organization with regards to culture and engagement. I rarely think, and next question is, I rarely think about looking for another job when I'm working here, or I see myself working in the organization for several years' time. One of the really important things that I think is important when you do an employee engagement survey is to actually communicate those results back to your employees, the good and the bad. So you don't want to do it and then sugarcoat it at the back end of the employee engagement survey. Your staff know what they've put on the survey, so there's not much point hiding behind that information. If you get a bad result from your employee engagement survey, you need to be prepared to take some steps to improve those things and look at the data and choose how you're going to what you're going to focus on and improve in the next 6 to 12 months. I generally would suggest, maybe annually is a good place to start with an employee engagement survey. You don't want to over survey your staff either, to the point where it's they don't value the survey. You can also look at doing some brainstorming post the survey with a select group of staff to analyse the feedback and come up with a strategy of how you're going to manage implementing some strategies with it as a result of the survey feedback that you get. So one of the other ways of measuring employee engagement is to look at doing it with one-on-one surveys. The reason I would recommend this is because everybody, doing a survey of all of your staff, yes, you'll get a bulk download of information, but it's also probably a good opportunity to sit down with staff on a one-on-one basis as a check-in to see what's going on, what are you doing right, have regular catch-ups with those employees, give them an opportunity to communicate any concerns, any successes they've had as well, and get some direction from those staff to be able to build on the employment within their experience as an employee with the organisation. Topics that you can include in those one-on-ones is their professional development, how their performance, any roadblocks that they might be experiencing within the workplace. So for example, there might be, a simple thing that just requires a quick technological fix might be something that's identified in one of those one-on-one meetings, but might be causing your staff significant issues. And I've seen that happen when you've had staff talk and discuss sessions, and then somebody in the room goes, well, I know how to fix that, and they fix it, and it makes their job 1,000 times better and easier because they've got rid of that roadblock. And also looking at that team development, what team development's required. Something that I've done quite a lot with my clients recently is what we call stay interviews. And that's about talking to your staff and having a series of questions that you go through with those employees to identify what opportunities are for those staff where they might be feeling undervalued, not appreciated, or they're happy working with the organisation, and having really frank, open discussion around how we can work to improve any particular issues. I generally would come up with a set of questions of between 8 to 10 questions, and usually it's a one-on-one conversation. I've actually facilitated that for clients, so you could have your internal HR, or a manager within the organisation facilitate those conversations. And it might be you've got managers within your team and they do other teams for one-on-one stay interviews, so that you're getting open feedback from your staff and you're identifying any potential risks of staff that might be unhappy and wanting to leave your organisation. And given that it's such a tight labour market, I actually think these are really, really valuable at the moment. And I'll be honest, 5 years ago, it wasn't something that people did. So in terms of staff retention, it's obviously a massive cost to businesses in terms of, if you're losing staff and you're having to replace those staff, you've got to recruit them, you've got to train them, you've got to get them up to speed. So there's obviously a cost. So retaining those staff is obviously really important. One of the documents that I've read during doing research for this particular presentation was the 2020 NDS State of the Disability Sector Report. It's definitely worth reading if you're in that sector. It provides a bit of an overview of what's happening with the workforce and the ongoing difficulties that are being faced by the industry sector. And just as a summary, some of the roles that are proving difficult for providers to retain, occupational therapists, which is it's at around the 65%, they're saying that they're difficult to retain, physiotherapists, speech therapists, psychologists, dietitians, and disability support workers. So they're all in that top in terms of trying to retain those employees where they're finding it difficult. And some of the key reasons that providers are not able to retain these staff is saying, look, lack of permanent positions, availability of better working conditions elsewhere, or generally staff burnout. So what I'm seeing with some of my clients is they're getting an increase in staff turnover because the staff are working at such higher pace and they're having to take on more responsibilities because they're already short-staffed. So I think identifying that and putting in measures to manage those situations is really important. So rather than still expecting them to work at such a fast pace, you might need to look at your workloads and how much they can do with clients in that particular situation. Because I've definitely had clients where they've got, speech therapists or occupational therapists where they're working at, their caseloads are so full that they're leaving because they're under pressure due to the demands of the role, because the organisation itself is already understaffed because they can't find people. So staff and retention, why does employee retention matter? Employee retention promotes the health and success of your organisation. So the benefits of employee retention include it reduces your recruitment costs, obviously. So you've got recruitment, onboarding, it's expensive. You run ads on Seek, you run ads on other LinkedIn, other jobs boards. You've got time to interview candidates, or you might be paying for recruitment fees if you're getting external companies to do the recruitment for you, any pre-employment checks, and then you've got the ability to onboard somebody. So there's, they don't start day one and they're, productive and making you money. It takes a while to get people onboarded as well. Improved morale within the organisation. So when you've got reduced retention, employee morale is typically higher as well. The workplace becomes a more positive place. If there's higher staff turnover, there's generally a bit of concern from other employees as to why staff are leaving the organisation. And then obviously increased productivity. Productivity and engagement tend to be higher among long-term employees. So long-term employees have had time to develop their skills and abilities, and they understand how to do the work within the organisation. They understand your procedures. So they're generally way more productive than having to have new people trained and upskilled to get up to speed once they're working in your organisation. So attracting staff in a tight labour market. Now, I'll be honest, I wish I had the magic pill or the magic wand to be able to solve this issue. I've definitely had experience of trying to find people in the current climate. It's difficult. I'm not going to pretend that it's not. It's really hard. So I suppose with regards to that, there's definitely an issue with regards to finding and attracting staff at the moment. But one of the NDS State of the Disability Sector reported that one of the biggest concerns for providers was regarding labour shortages and attracting staff. So the NDIS needs to attract 83,000 additional workers by 2024, which is equivalent to 31% increase in the workforce. This growth will be across all states and territories and NDIS occupations, particularly support workers, nurses and allied health professionals. And it's interesting to note that a lot of the state governments now are actually introducing incentives for people to go into nursing in terms of reducing the HECS debts. So I know I've got a couple of friends, kids are going into nursing next year, and I know New South Wales, the HECS fee is significantly reduced. And I think Victoria is offering it, I think even for free. So I'm not sure about the other states, but the government's actually already trying to attract more people into the nursing particularly. And as the NDIS grows, attracting suitable workers will be essential, obviously. And that means attracting the right skills, values, attributes, and diversity of experience and of participants as well. So it's about attracting people from all different walks of life, different cultural backgrounds, and so on, so that they can provide services to those people within the organisation. So attracting staff, what can you do? So companies, you need to think outside the box, and you need to try and attract people in it, that, and do something that other people aren't doing. So one of those things, obviously you've got your standard approach. One of the things within the sector is that a lot of people are working casually or part-time, and maybe looking at whether or not there's an opportunity to provide more permanent full-time work rather than casual, because around 34% of the disability sector employees are on a casual basis. And for some workers, casual work is attractive, but maybe for other people, they want a bit more stability and security around their employment, and permanent full-time or permanent part-time might be a more appealing factor for them, if it's something you can consider. And then I think it's promoting opportunities in the care and support sector. So that this is one of the initiatives of the workforce plan for 2021 to 2025. So working in the care and support sector is often poorly perceived by the public as a low paid position or career opportunity. So it's a great way to show how rewarding a career can be, and in the disability and aged care sectors. So sharing stories from your employees and how their opportunities have grown. Actually, we found an organisation, it's called Sunnyfield Disability Services, and they've got some advertising on Seek at the moment. And their videos are actually fantastic. They're actually showing how great it is to work in that sector, as opposed to just putting up a job ad that's just got a whole lot of words. They're actually promoting what their organisation is about, and how it would be good to work in that industry. Now, I've got no affiliation with this organisation. I don't know them. They've just got some ads on Seek at the moment, and they're actually fantastic. They've done a really good job of marketing their organisation as a good organisation to work for. And then providing career paths and development for your existing employees that translates is a good way to attract new employees, as your existing employees are often the best advocates for promoting and advocating as a good place to work. So, if you're providing career paths and development opportunities for existing employees, they're going to talk to other people and say how great it is to work for your organisation. So other things you can look at doing is alternative methods of recruitment. Obviously, you've got your traditional methods of Seek and LinkedIn and social media campaigns, but there's also geo-targeting that you can do through social media, but obviously you need specialised people with marketing skills to assist with that. Targeted marketing campaigns, which are targeting specific people in specific areas or industries, and then trying to look at promoting your organisation at careers expos or job fairs to potentially look at people who are entering the workforce and developing a career path within your sector. So your local councils or even schools do those things regularly. I know my son's high school, they had a careers day at their school this year. So you could potentially look at doing those sorts of things. Universities, they do careers days, careers days as well. Looking at attracting people to get into the industry by doing vet courses. So whether or not there's opportunities, so you're getting people in at the early stages, and they basically can do work and attend TAFE whilst they're still at school for year 11 and 12. That's something that I know some of my clients have implemented. So they're actually trying to get younger staff in to start training them before they've even left school. So there's those opportunities as well. And if you're not doing it already, look at referral programs within your organisation for promoting, attracting and recruiting staff. So I've got quite a few of my clients now offer referral fees to any staff that promote or introduce an employee that's employed. So they pay them a fee. Some of them, it ranges from $200. I've got clients that are paying as much as $1,000 depending on the role. So some of my clients, they structure it based on the level of the position. But I suppose if you think about, a CCAD is going to cost you at least $270 plus GST, you could look to offering referral fees for those staff who promote your workplace as a good place to work. So employer of choice, I think, is something that's still definitely important. And in simplest terms, it's an employer of choice is a company that candidates by and large want to work for. So some of the defining characters of an employer in choice are they've got strong leadership, they provide competitive pay, engaged workers, meaningful work, and attractive company culture. So I think it's really important you look at your culture of your organisation, what you're doing within your organisation to ensure that staff are wanting to work there. You'll find when you're an employer of choice, applicants come to you. And I've got quite a few clients where we get unsolicited applications, and we generally will recruit. A lot of their staff have come by the fact that they're aware of the organisation, they're aware of the way they promote themselves in the community, and those applicants apply direct to those businesses because they are in that community seemed as an employer of choice. So it's also about looking at your community and promoting yourself within that community as an employer of choice. So you might be based in, I don't know, Baulkham Hills in Sydney. So you don't necessarily need to market to all of Sydney, but you might want to market to the local community in the Hills District about what you are as a good employer of choice. So whether that's attending events and promoting things, supporting local charities, whatever it might be, that gets your word out as an employer of choice in many ways because they see you and they hear about you and they know what you're doing. But there's no one size fits all approach. Every organisation's different. Every organisation has a different take on how things are done, and also the industry impacts that as well. But the benefits of being an employer of choice is you typically will have a higher staff retention. You're able to compete on factors other than just salary. So people will come and want to work with you, not just because you maybe pay more, but because it's a good place to work. And then it makes it a lot easier from a hiring perspective. So how to become an employer of choice? I've just provided some ideas around this. Oh, sorry. Pay workers fairly and adhere to the basics of legal entitlements. Respect and empower your employees. I think this is really important. And provide opportunities for growth. So making sure that your staff are developing whilst they're working for your organisation. Be a leader, not a follower. So lead within your organisation and lead within your industry. And provide benefits to your employees. Now, there's lots of different benefits that you can apply. So one of the things that, a lot of organisations are offering now is employee assistance programs or EAP services, which basically provides some counselling and support to your staff when they might be having a difficult time, either personally or professionally. They've got access to that EAP services. Events to support your staff. So it might be you have a pizza day, you have a Melbourne Cup lunch day, or you organise to take staff out to a picnic, whatever it might be, to the movies, lots of things. Typically staff like to do those things. Free flu shots, pet insurance, salary packaging for your not-for-profit organisations. I think that's definitely in your sector something that is appealing for lots of people. Whether or not you can provide an novated lease for cars for some people in your organisation, retail discounts. So there's lots of different membership organisations that you can join where you can get these discounts. And as being a member as an organisation, that is passed on to your employees, so they might get discounts at Woolworths or wherever it might be. There's obviously a fee attached to that, but the amount of programs available there's many of them, and I think they're worth looking at. Again, your referral programs. Staff awards and recognitions. Now, in my experience, there might be some staff that don't need it, but most of the time staff like to be recognised and given an award for their good work, their work ethic, their customer service. I've got lots of clients that do annual staff recognition awards nights so that they're providing that support to their staff and recognise them for the good work that they do. And also looking at flexible work options. Now, I know it's difficult in the industry that you're in, but that could be as simple as being able to provide a bit more flexibility with regards to choice of rosters or rostering around people's personal needs so that they know they've got that flexibility to a certain extent. Study assistance programs, so helping support, so somebody might be employed with you, but they want to become qualified, so you can support that with them. And then promoting from within. I think sometimes we often look outside without looking at promoting within an organisation. I think that's something you should always try to do where you can, if possible. Giving back, and I mean, that's giving back to the community that you're a part of. A lot of employees appreciate that and value that in an organisation. And partnering with industry experts when it comes to, implementing new ideas in your organisation and generally being innovative as an organisation. And that might be around technology and how you manage your workflow, your care plans, all those sorts of things, looking at how innovation and technology can make life easier and more productive for your employees. So tips for employee retention, I think employee ownership of their roles and avoiding micromanagement. The amount of times I've had people in my career tell me that they don't like being micromanaged. I haven't yet had anyone tell me they like it, which is probably something we all could take note of. Value employees for the work they do, not just the hours they worked. Flexibility where it's achievable, even when just offering choice of rosters. Showing appreciation and giving thanks. It doesn't always have to be bells and whistles. Sometimes just a simple thank you. I appreciate you, what you did yesterday with that difficult client, or, you know, thank you for staying back yesterday. It was really appreciated. People like to be told and shown appreciation. So I think it's sometimes we forget to do that because we're so busy getting things done and moving on to the next thing. We just don't, it's not that we don't need it. Sometimes we just forget to say it. And it doesn't mean you have to say it every single time, but just consciously being mindful of appreciating your staff and showing them thanks. Treat your staff well, have a culture of learning and growth, have a robust onboarding process. And I think that's really important, that your staff are onboarded well into your organization. They understand the processes, they understand the procedures, they know who to go to if there's a problem. They aren't just dumped on the doorstep on the first day, given a pack of information and told to go and deliver services. You should invest some time at the front end when you're bringing people on board. You know, the joke, I don't know, it's a bit of a HR joke where, you know, you promise the person heaven and then on the first day it's hell. I think you need to live up to the expectations that you set for people when you are offering people jobs. If you're saying you do something, then make sure you do it. And make sure your employees don't feel overworked and overwhelmed. So there's just some tips in terms of trying to improve employee retention. And that is the end of my presentation.
That's pretty much it. Then we can wrap up. And yeah, I'll leave you to say a few words, Belinda. Thank you.
No, thank you. Look, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. And I know it is difficult at the moment with attracting and retaining staff, but I think if you can probably just go back and look at not necessarily implementing all of those things, but maybe just a couple of those things, it will hopefully benefit your organisations.